although there's an argument about it. If you include tax credits and things, it's probably pretty close. But the point is, we have a very open labour market. We have a very open welfare system. You have access to it now immediately. You just have to be resident in the UK. And that does act as a kind of magnet, more so than for other European countries.
Let me bring in Jonathan Portes here. I mean, David Goodhart's described you in the past as the Whitehall economist from the New Labour era, most in favour of as much immigration as possible, that this sort of liberal policy on immigration has left us where we are today, with a system that he says is not working necessarily.
Well, I am in favour of a liberal and flexible labour market under this government and previous ones. Now, what I would say is that David says, oh, we don't know where there are Eastern European immigrants who are paying their way. We do, including tax credits. There's been a very well-documented piece of research that shows that immigrants from the new member states contribute considerably more through taxes than they take out in public services. That's very well established. And we also know whether they're likely to claim benefit or not. And as your interview showed, actually we know that Eastern European immigrants are about half as likely to claim benefits as native Britons. So we know that there's not really a problem here. David is inventing a solution to a problem which really doesn't exist. And that,
part of David Goodhart's argument is that this is about what this has left people with, white working class people, low paid or unemployed. It has left them at the bottom of the pile.
Well, there is a serious problem, as I've said, and I've said this to David, there's a serious problem at the lower end of our labour market, in particular for, as you say, white working class people in some areas with low skills and qualifications who find it difficult to succeed in the labour market. But actually, if you look around the country, it's quite clear where that problem is worst. It's actually worst in places like Hull, Knowsley, Doncaster, places where labour demand is very weak.
Doing with this debate?
Well, I think the point is that the problem is significantly worse, actually, in places where immigrants haven't gone. So that's what I mean by scapegoating.
David Goodhart responds to that. He says you're scapegoating.
The big factoid here is that 20% of people working in low-skilled jobs in the UK were born outside the country. Now, given that there are many parts of the country where there are hardly any immigrants, that means that in many places it'll be 30 or 40%. There clearly is pressure and competition in the labour market, particularly those at the bottom end.
So why is youth unemployment higher in places with lower immigration?
It alienates people. I mean, I'm in favour of the European Union. I do not think that we should abandon freedom of movement, but I think we should introduce qualifications and caveats to it, because it enormously alienates people from the good things about the European Union.
That David Goodhart is in sync with what huge part of the population in this country
he may well be, but I think what alienates...
And that you're out of step.
Yes, I'm not here to talk about popular opinion. What it seems to me is alienates people is David, and this is what I mean by scapegoating, is pointing to immigration as the main problem around low wages, around educational underperformance, around the difficulty we have around youth unemployment, when the evidence quite clearly shows youth unemployment rose more. Youth unemployment rose more in places with lower immigration.
Even the report you just cited did not include tax credits. I mean, it is not clear.
You're wrong, David. As usual, you've got your facts wrong. I'm afraid David
it was a DWP report.
No, it wasn't actually, David.
Just one moment. Just very briefly.
You haven't read the literature, as usual.
But the point is, you were part of a government that thought 13,000 people would come, and 1.5 million people came. Now, all I'm saying is that we should, if that happens again, we should have the ability, as Switzerland does, to have a safeguard clause that says, let's have a pause for a few years.
Very briefly, Jonathan Portes, what is wrong with that idea? Very briefly.
Well, as you said, part of being in the European Union is free movement of workers. That has benefited the British economy. The report, which, as I said, does include tax credits, showed very clearly that Eastern Europeans made they pay in about 30 to 40% more than they take out.
David
is trying to blame immigrants for labour market problems which have very little to do with immigration.
Thank you very much for joining us. David Goodhart in Plymouth, Jonathan Portes now.